But I want to dive into my power rankings here. So this is based off of a lot of the offseason moves, a lot of the things that took place over the course of the offseason, a lot of changes for some teams, especially at the top. Maybe there's a couple teams that didn't do a lot, i.e. the Nuggets. And where do I have them? So we're going to not kind of go through this list. I didn't rank. I wanted to do top 20, but I ran out of time. So, and maybe this is something we can, touch on later on. But real quick, I want to dive into my 20 through 11. And this might give you guys a little heads up. You might see like, wait a minute, how are these teams not in the top 10? But this is just based off of how I feel about these rosters and what they're putting together and how we're going to, what we're going to expect from them and some of the deficiencies and some of the good things, bad things about each of these teams. So starting out at number from 20 to 15, I have the Spurs at number 20, getting Victor Wembanyama in the offseason. There are some pretty bad teams out there, but the Spurs, this could change a little bit for them. And I think they have a little bit of a boost here with Victor Wembanyama along with some of the other pieces on that roster. So I got them at number 20. Do I expect them to do much this year? Probably not, but I do think they're going to be pretty dynamic. I mean, they're going to be a team that's must watch just for Victor Wembanyama. If you watch some of those preseason games, that alien game between Victor Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren was absolutely spectacular. I still watch some of those highlights because you got two guys that are pretty similar in like how they're built, but kind of have different strengths in some ways as well. But it's fascinating. What's up, Brendan? How we doing? Go Raptors. Grizz number 1, or we riot? No shot, Rec. No shot. Actually, I got the Grizz here at number 15. But let's keep going in. Spurs, Magic, Hawks, Pelicans. Now, the Pelicans on a lot of people's lists might be a little bit lower, might be a little bit higher. It kind of depends on the hype around them. But I love a lot of what the Pelicans put together. The New Orleans Pelicans, last year, when they had the pleasure of having Zion Williamson in the lineup for a change, were, for the beginning part of the season, very good and very, very scary. I know every time the Nuggets play them, it's one of the toughest matchups that I feel like we run into. But Zion got knocked out, and they kind of went down this downward spiral, and they haven't been looking like the same in his absence. But now you're looking at a team that hopefully has Zion for a whole season. This could be a breakout year, comeback of the year. Zion has been looking crazy in the preseason in some of these highlights. But then you pair him with Herb Jones, Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, and Jonas Valanciunas. And honestly, this team, I think, could be a very, very good team. Potential. I mean, I feel like this is a playoff team if everybody stays healthy. Plus, you got the bench, Trey Murphy, Larry Nance Jr., you got Alvarado, who came out and had some nice games last year. Dyson Daniels, a rookie who comes in. So they have some decent depth. Maybe not a lot of star power on that second unit, but there's some pieces that fit there. Depends on Zion Simmons Porter Jr. Exactly. If he wants to play or not. If he plays, I think they're in a good spot. They did well when he was healthy. Yeah. And a lot of people are. I'm looking at some of the bets and seeing like what the win totals are for the Pelicans, and they might be an over candidate for their win total based off of the fact that if you want to gamble that Zion stays healthy, they could be a really, really dangerous team. So they come in here at number, what do I have? 17. Then I had the Timberwolves coming in. At number 16, one of the better defenses in the league. You have some, Rudy Gobert holding down the middle there. You have Anthony Edwards, who is potential MVP caliber candidate player here this season. I mean, what he did in the playoffs in the first round last year, I honestly think in the entire title run for the Denver Nuggets, the hardest player and the scariest player we encountered was Anthony Edwards. And they have a very, very good defense to go with him. Now, they kind of struggle defending the perimeter. Obviously, they have a couple big boys down low, but as you get further out, they kind of struggle against teams like the Nuggets and teams like the Golden State Warriors trying to defend the perimeter. We'll get to some other teams that have troubles with that too, but Timberwolves could be. A lot of people are down on them. I think they made one of the worst trades ever when they traded for Rudy Gobert. But I will say they still have a decent chance to potentially put together a roster in the next 2 or 3 years that I think could potentially compete. But I don't think this is the year. Then we got the Knicks, the Cavs, and the Kings. The Kings are on this list here at number 12. I know a lot of people are high on the Knicks. The Knicks are kind of a weird team for me. They have a very, very. I'll say this right now. I was wrong on Jalen Brunson when the Knicks traded for picked up Jalen Brunson. I was thinking to myself, man, Jalen Brunson, what are you doing? Like, what is he? I don't even know. He reminds me of like a Van Vliet, like, you know, he can have his moments and this and that. No, he's good, and he's getting into that. He's a star. He's a star. And I don't know if I would say superstar. I think he's on the cusp of that. Maybe not quite there yet, but he is very, very good. I think that you need some help from some of the other pieces on that team because he's kind of doing it alone on some nights. You never know what you're going to get from night to night from some of the players on that roster, and the Knicks can surprise people. But I mean, when R.J. Barrett, Julius Randle decide not to show up, it's like, I don't know what this team looks. This team is just not great. I do like the pickup of Dante DiVincenzo from Golden State. He comes in, adds some depth. Josh Hart is fantastic as that pickup in last year. So Mitchell Robinson holding down the defense, but either way, this is an interesting team. I don't know. Again, I think they rely too much on Jalen Brunson, and I don't know. It depends on if Julius Randle and RJ Barrett can actually show up and be consistent. Then maybe they creep into like the top, 9 or 10 in this power rankings, but they're not quite there yet. Cavaliers, they have some weird turmoil. Not turmoil, I should say. They have Donovan Mitchell is kind of a thing that I don't know how that fit is going. There's a lot of rumors around that, so I'm kind of a little concerned about how that's going to play out. But I like some of the pieces on this team. They just don't really feel like, even though they were really, really good, they were top 10 in offensive defensive efficiency last year for majority of the year. Mainly their defense was what kept them in games. But then when it came to the playoffs, they couldn't create shots, and that was the biggest issue for them. Kings coming in number 12, Mavericks number 11. Kings did make some moves to try to improve some of the defensive side of the basketball, and I don't know if it's going to be enough. I do think they're one of the most fun teams to watch when it comes to just watching them up and down the court. They were one of the fastest paced teams in the NBA last season. And when you have De'Aaron Fox, Harrison Barnes, Keegan Murray's coming in, young kid that's like starting to come on the up and ups, Domantas Sabonis and Harrison Barnes, I think that they're going to be a good team to watch, but maybe not a competitive team. They have a lot of good defensive-minded players like Davion Mitchell to secure the perimeter, but still have some questions. Domantas Sabonis, as much as I love him, I don't know if he can really battle with some of the bigger centers in the league. So that's kind of where I feel like he kind of struggled a little bit, as well as his mid-range, and you need him to be hitting those consistently. And so that's why I have them a little bit further down on this list. Mavericks, number 11. Love Luka. Kyrie's always a wild card, but hey, wild card, he's very good as a wild card. So I just don't know if the Dallas Mavericks did enough this offseason to keep up with the teams ahead of them. And that's the issue I have with them. there's a lot of players on this roster that I think are pretty good. I mean, they drafted Derek Lively. He's a big center that they just got out of, I believe, was he Duke or Kentucky? I believe he was Duke. Yeah, Duke. So he came out of Duke. I don't know if he's going to be ready, but he does provide something that the Dallas Mavericks have needed, and that's some sort of presence in the paint. Dwight Powell was not the guy that was going to be, holding anything down in that section. So that's another aspect of this that I like that move, but he's still a rookie, and you still have Jaden Hardy you drafted him last year, Tim Hardaway Jr. You have some shooters, and you have a little bit of depth here, but I don't know about this starting lineup competing with some of the other starting lineups in this Western Conference. Let's see. I've never done basketball before. Would anyone be willing to sit with me in a voice chat and explain what the hell is happening? I would love to. Riley. And I think we're going to be doing some basketball on maybe some basketball when it comes to the playback.tv this year. I can't wait to do some of those because, let's just face it. I love watching the Nuggets, and let's just say Lauren isn't always. She likes to go to bed early. I like to watch the game, so we always end up doing our own thing on those nights. So I might as well watch with someone who's really trying to learn and have a good time with it. Not to say that my wife doesn't. She loves basketball. She loves the Nuggets and stuff. She just doesn't want to watch it every night like I do. So hey, let's make it happen. What's up, Doc? How we doing, Doc? Well, welcome. All right. So Mavericks come in at number 11 on our list here of the top 20. Now, let's get into it. Top 10. This is where we're getting into the nitty-gritty of some of the best teams. I think there is kind of a separation of what I think is, gonna really stand out from the top echelon, and I think there's a gap. I think that after you get to the after the top 6, I think there's a little bit of a drop-off for me when it comes to any of these teams actually being able to make a title run and being plausible to make a title run. So, these bottom 4 teams, 6 through 10, they're going to be very good, and I think they're going to have nice playoff hopes. Do I think that they can win a long series or go deep into the playoffs? Maybe, but not as much as some of the teams that are in the top 6. So 7 through 10, I should say, is what we're covering here, and I think these are going to be kind of the outside looking in. But here we go. A team that I am super, super excited for, and one I think is going to be one of the most fun teams to watch this season. It's going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder. Oklahoma City Thunder have built out from the ground up one of the better, deeper rosters on the NBA landscape. It's crazy. They are very, very good, especially in their starting lineup with young talent. Probably the best young talent in the NBA is all on this roster. Between Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who took that step to superstar stardom status. Then you got Josh Giddey, who is just incredible to watch. He's a facilitator. He gets all of his teammates involved, but he could score when he needs to as well. Lou Dort, Jalen Williams, a young draft pick from last year, and then Chet Holmgren makes his rookie campaign, so to speak, this time around. And you know what? I'm a Gonzaga guy. My wife went to Gonzaga. She loves the Bulldogs. I have grown to be a Gonzaga Bulldog fan based off of her fandom. So I'm rooting for Chet. I have a couple little side bets that he's going to win Rookie of the Year. Hopefully he does, and it makes its way into my bank account. But either way, Chet Holmgren, I think, is going to be one of the best young players in the NBA. He looks, even some of the talks of other NBA veteran players, Kevin Garnett was like, this kid's different. Like, he's got that tough factor. He doesn't back down. He's got that old school 90s grit kind of attitude. And he's a guy that you're going to want to watch. And he's going to be very, very good defensively, offensively, step back threes, shot creation, passing. He's got a little bit of everything. So that, in combination with all the other talent on this roster, it's going to be incredible. So this team is only going up. Do I think they make a solid playoff run this year? Absolutely. I think they can make a really, really good case to be, one of those top 8. I don't know. Maybe they're in the 7-8 range this year with their seeding, but I think that they have a really good chance to make something happen. Let me get to the chat real quick because I know there's been some things happening. I'll show up, support, learn the ropes. Hey, I love it, Riley. Riley, which team would you be rooting for? Just curious. Just got done with AAU tryouts, finally having dinner. Hey, it's been a busy day, Doc. Glad you're here, hanging out with us. Let's see. I grew up on basketball. Love that you're getting into this now. Hey, hometown hooker, I'm always down to talk basketball. Basketball's been my first love. I mean, I love NFL football, don't get me wrong, but like NBA basketball, I grew up going to games. I've always been a fan of just the sport and always been a Nuggets fan growing up, watching all the games, loved all the players. I mean, watching the Reggie Millers I was on that tail end of the Michael Jordan era, but I remember sitting and watching the Jordans and when he hit that that series against the Jazz, hitting that big shot. Like, I remember being a kid watching that and just loving it. It's just so much fun to continue to just have some of these shows that we could put together that we can talk a little bit of hoops. My dad coached Jorge Sands. Oh, okay. I think that name sounds familiar. Director of basketball operations for Gonzaga. That's crazy, Doc. That's awesome. Do you guys play FanDuel? I bet on NFL games. Yes, I mean, I have a bunch of bets rolling this weekend. So yeah, definitely jump on FanDuel. I'm gonna be doing some NBA bets coming up here too. I'll give you some good insights as the season kicks off on some trends that you should probably keep in mind. I'm leaning towards your Nuggets and a secondary team, the Pistons. I like it, Riley. I like it. Pistons having a lot of nice young talent, by the way. Uncle got me into it. Now daughter's making her name. And you know what's great? Speaking of like that daughter, getting into it as well. My daughter, she's 4. We got some tickets to go to this year's. We have like 10 games that we're going to this year. So she's getting into it. It's great to pass down. Like, it's such a fun sport to pass down to your kids too. So that just makes it that much better. I'm on a tangent, but so I'll get back to the ranking. So Thunder coming in here at number 10, very exciting young team. I think they're going to have a lot to be excited about going into this season, and they will be in that playoff picture when it's all said and done. Even towards the bottom of that playoff picture. As weird as this sounds, guys, I got the Clippers here, and like, I never believe in the Clippers. The Clippers are the Los Angeles Chargers of the NBA. They always have the hype and they're always picked to do something and they never end up doing anything. But that doesn't mean I have to like exclude them from this top 10 list based off of their talent and what they can do if they're healthy. So I have the Clippers, but grudgingly, I was trying to find ways to not have the Clippers on this list. Because let's just face it, I just know they're going to choke away another. And coincidentally, the Nuggets play the Clippers, and the Nuggets have owned the Clippers. Nuggets play the Clippers tonight. But the Clippers, just if they're a healthy team, and I don't know, let's just say it sounds like they're the only team in play for James Harden. So James Harden could have that reunion with Russell Westbrook, but you still got Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, Robert Covington, Zubac here and on this one, but you still have young talent behind them. Trey Mann, Norman Powell, Kenyon Martin Jr., Nicholas Batum is a little bit of a vet, but he's still somewhat manageable. And then Mason Plumlee, he's always a team player. Top to bottom, if you get a full season, which I don't believe we're going to, from Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, this could be a team that could be pretty solid. I mean, you can't discount them from a pure talent standpoint. Now, they learned their lesson over the last couple of years of sitting, and then all of a sudden that cohesiveness just took longer to get going. You look at these teams who have been together for a while, and you see that they're just humming offensively, defensively. You don't get that with the Clippers because they always have different lineups from night to night. So that's the issue here with the Clippers that they're going to be battling against. But realistically, Kawhi's a top 5 to 7 player in the NBA when healthy, but he just misses so many games, and they're just going to be a tough team to deal with. So here I have them at number 9. I was going to ask if the Dallas Cowboys, ask if they were the Dallas Cowboys of the NBA. They start off strong, get their fans into it and the hype, and then they choke when it counts. Well, that too, Riley, that too. So between the Chargers and the Cowboys, I think both teams are similar trajectories, and I think the Clippers are similar comparison if you were comping them out. Very, like, a lot of stars on those teams, Cowboys, Chargers, Clippers, a lot of star power. But they can never put it together at the end of a season when it really matters. So, yeah, you're not wrong. You're not far off there. Meta Gibby. Oh, we're ranking the we're ranking the NBA teams. Nice. Yeah, we're doing NBA rankings. NBA starts next Tuesday. Nuggets, Lakers, I will be going. It'll be an absolute blast. I can't wait to kick off the NBA season. One of my favorite times of the year. I think I'm the team outside top 4, not worth talking. What's your team, Gibby? What's your team? Remind me for the NBA. That's a good analogy. Hometown. Yeah. I mean, again, I wanna. I didn't actually know. Scratch. I don't want to like and root for the Clippers ever. Philadelphia 76ers here on this list. Now, Philadelphia is a weird team too. They always, as long as you have an MVP candidate on your team, on your roster, especially how he performs in the regular season, you have a really good setup, just a good foundation of how you want to win games. But then you throw in like a Tyrese Maxey, who's, I think, going to be one of the bigger stars coming out of these young, talented players across the NBA. Let's just be real. He's going to be very, very good. PJ Tucker, Tobias Harris. You have some veterans on here that have been around for a while. The issue that I have with the Philadelphia 76ers are a couple things. Joel Embiid tends to just disappear along with James Harden. James Harden has been a distraction in Philadelphia for the last couple of years, especially this year. Now he's asking for a trade, and he only wants to go to the Clippers. So I guess I was trying to I forgot to talk about how that plays in. If he stays or goes to the Clippers, if he ends up playing for any team, as much as I feel like James Harden gets a bad rap for the playoffs, which he should because he just doesn't end up playing to the extent that he fully can in the playoffs. Regular season, James Harden is one of the best shot creators. Just, he's very, very good at creating his own shot and getting teammates involved. He can pass the ball, he can get to the rim, he can finish, get to the free throw line. He could do a lot of things. So he's a valuable talent. But I will say that, you know, if you can deal with some of the things that come with that, I think he's dug himself into a corner with always requesting trades after he signs contracts. And not a lot of teams are like excited to sign a player that doesn't hold up to his end of the bargain. So there's a lot of turmoil here. That doesn't change the fact that the 76ers are a talented roster and they can make the playoffs. But this just, to me, seems like a team that's going to be on the outside looking in when it comes to getting out of the first round. They haven't been able to get out of the first round. Joel Embiid has never made it to a conference finals. And, you know, we had a little bit of backlash last year after he won the MVP. And if it was a pity MVP award, he earned it. Let's just be real. Do I think Joker had a better... I won't get into, like, the politics of it, but, you know, hey, Joel Embiid is an incredible player. Very, very good. Defensively, can lock things down, and then offensively, one of the more prolific centers that we've seen in recent years. So by far, you can't take anything away from him there. If Maxey takes even another step and he's into that Shea Gilgeous-Alexander kind of range, I think that they could be a very, very good team. But I think they're a good regular season team. I don't know if they have what it takes to make a deep run in the playoffs, especially against some of the teams in the East that are just loaded top to bottom. That we'll get into in a little bit. James Harden is being a princess already. He already missed a couple games in preseason. He was in Houston, but it sounds like he's planning on playing another game of the preseason coming up here, and then possibly, I don't know what his plans are and how he's going to approach the NBA season, but it's a distraction. You don't want to be a 76ers fan looking at James Harden and holding this team hostage and not performing early on in the season. So that sucks. But doesn't sound like there's anything happening anytime soon. We'll see. I think the college basketball landscape is more exciting than the NBA, to be honest. It's a different. There's different aspects to college game versus the NBA game, and so I agree. I get into a lot of college basketball, and I kind of more so as like outside of Gonzaga, I kind of just watch a lot of like players in the college landscape and like how they're going to translate to the NBA. Because like that's kind of, since I'm so into the NBA, I like to see which teams and which players will fit the best and which kind of prospects might, change the landscape of an NBA franchise and how that plays out. So, I follow college basketball a little differently, as opposed to, I also watch a lot of all the Gonzaga games because I'm a fan of Gonzaga. And hey, they tend to disappoint me every single year anyway. All right, it's number 7 here, Miami Heat. Now, this is after this, as we get into the higher echelon of these games, or these teams, this is where I think the cutoff is. Now, the Heat are a weird team because the Heat, nobody ever gives credit for. Nobody ever gives credit for the Heat. But yet they somehow find themselves each and every single year competing for the Eastern Conference Finals. And I'm just like, how does Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo make it that far with a roster that they had? And they somehow find their way. They always find a way. The biggest disappointment with Miami was missing out on Damian Lillard, who that was what we thought everything was going towards when we initially saw it. It was like, that's the only spot. That's where he's going to end up. It's only a matter of time. If it's a when, not if. And we saw Damian Lillard go over to the Milwaukee Bucks. We'll talk about them here in a little bit. But still have Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero, Josh Richardson, Jimmy Butler, and Bam Adebayo as the projected starting lineup here. Still have old man Kevin Love on the bench, coming off the bench, which is crazy to me. But Eric Spoelstra is one of the best coaches in the NBA, if not the best coach. And he gets the best out of what he's got, which is why I have them here. Because to take a team like the Heat that last year against the Bucks, against the Eastern Conference, they are the little engine that somehow finds a way. Miami's one of those team. This team has no business being this good kind of team. Exactly, Riley. Exactly. And in the regular season, they just, for some reason, just fly under the radar because you have all these teams at the top of the NBA on the Eastern side. You have the Celtics getting all the attention, the Sixers getting all the attention, the Bucks, even the New York Knicks as of late have been getting a lot of attention. But Miami just flies under the radar, does their thing, and finds themselves in the Eastern Conference Finals every single year, it seems like. So they're going to be good. Do I think they have what it takes to dethrone some of the top talent in the Eastern Conference this year? Man, there was some improvements against on some of those teams that I just mentioned that might be a little bit tougher. However, we'll see what ends up happening. But Miami Heat hit it right here at the end of this contenders and pretenders kind of thing that I have here. The cellophane breaks once we get to number 6. Let's see what I got in the chat. Man, Jags beating the crap out of the Saints. What's the score right now, Gibby? What's the score right now? I haven't been keeping tabs on. Actually, I think I have it up here somewhere. I might be able to potentially say what I wanted to say earlier, but I want to see where this game is at first. They're reviewing a defensive touchdown. Oof. I don't know. Yeah, let me know the score here when you find out. All right, let's get into number 6. So everyone else here, starting from number 6 through number 1, are the teams that I feel are legit title contenders that can make a run and potentially win it all. Starting at the Golden State Warriors here. Golden State, they have they're a team that is just, they have star-studded lineup that has been together for a little bit, right? They are very, very good, especially led by Steph Curry, who's one of the best shooters to ever grace the face of this earth. The best shooter to grace the face of this earth. And he is absolutely electric. Now, he has had some injury issues last year, and then also going into this season, they still have a lot of players that are coming back. Draymond, one of the smartest players in the NBA. Andrew Wiggins, it took a step up last year. Klay Thompson can always shoot, and added Chris Paul, which is an interesting addition because it makes this team small, which Golden State has the ability, because they're well coached on and off the court. On the court with Draymond, just on the sideline with Steve Kerr. Steph Curry and Klay Thompson can shoot you out of the gym each and every single game. They're just that good. The issue I have with the Golden State Warriors is what Medic Gibby just put in the chat. They are an absolute small team, and I don't know how they can compete. The big issue that they had last year against the Lakers was the fact that the Lakers would come out each and every single time, and even in the playoffs, they would just pull ISOs in their 14 of their 15 first points of some of those games were ISOs and post-ups because the size disadvantage. You had LeBron, you had AD going at them in the post, taking advantage of those lineups with Chris Paul, Curry, and Draymond. If Draymond's your 5 and he's the biggest guy on the court for your team, you have some issues balancing that, right? So that's the thing that I see with the Golden State Warriors that I don't know are going to be able to overcome some of these other teams like the Lakers, who I think are going to give them trouble. The Nuggets are a big team that's going to give them trouble. The biggest question for me is, can Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga, who are 2 young players that they've taken in the draft in recent years, step up and be key contributors? If they can, and you add them as not only defensive but offensive contributors, I think they can actually, have a decent run, and yeah, they can shoot the lights out. So the Warriors, you can never count them out just based off of their pure shot creation and spot up shooting. You can't. They can shoot you out of the gym, like Medic is saying in the chat, and it's just one of those things that you can never just really say, oh yeah, Warriors are an easy out. Especially in the playoffs, they have all of the momentum or all of the history, all the experience in the playoffs, so they know what to expect. They know how the game slows down. They know how the referees are, so they know how to play those types of games. But yeah, this is going to be a team that is very dangerous. And if you have everybody healthy all season long, Steph and Klay, man, that's going to be a good team. They also live and die by the 3. Yeah. So if they get cold, yeah, 100%. Yeah. And when the game slows down, and that's kind of what helps them in the playoffs, though, too, is a lot of times when the game slows down and you have to have those half-court kind of shot creation, they're so good at moving. They're so good at moving without the ball. So it just helps the style of play in the playoffs when they get to that point to be a little bit more efficient against teams that can't do that. So, yeah. So that's just where I'm at with the Warriors. Damn, the Kraken lead. That didn't last long. I haven't kept track of it. Let's see. Third quarter, 24-9, Jacksonville. Oof. I have a little bit of a pick on this one that I feel better about, but I'm not out of the woods quite yet. So I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. We're just going to let it ride. All right, let's get to number 5. Number 5. Okay, so we have the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix Suns is a team that I like a lot of what I see from their starting lineup. And so let's just talk about some of the key additions here that they had in the offseason. So over the course of the offseason, they were able to add Yusuf Nurkic in that trade. They also had Bradley Beal come in and be a part of this roster as well. So Bradley Beal coming over from Washington. And then you look at this starting lineup, one of the better starting lineups. They did end up losing a couple players in this one as well. So Nurkic is going to be a better center, though, when it comes down to it. Nurkic will provide a little bit more offense when it comes to this lineup. And you have really a team that's, on paper, one of the best starting lineups you find in the NBA. I mean, top to bottom. You can compare them with the Bucks. You can compare them with the Celtics, maybe the Nuggets. They're one of the top 5 starting lineups. The problem that they failed to solve for in this offseason is the fact that they still rely way too much on pull-up and mid-range. Nothing changed with any of these additions. Damn the Suns. Yeah, damn the Suns. I agree. I'm not a big fan of the Suns as of since the Suns in 4 year. But as much as they are loaded in this top lineup with Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Yusuf Nurkic, and then, they always have that one player that's kind of like slotted in there. I think Josh Okogie, or I don't know, Grayson Allen was added to this lineup as well. I think, one, they haven't fixed their depth problem. After that starting unit, you're looking at guys like Grayson Allen, Bates Diop, Eubanks. A couple of those guys are serviceable. They're fine. But going into the bench, there's not a lot there. And number 1. Number 2, they haven't solved their issue with relying too much on pull-up mid-range jump shots. You're not solving that. Bradley Beal adds to that issue. And what happens when the playoffs come around? And that's the issue I had with them last year when they played the Denver Nuggets. It took a historic run by Devin Booker to even stay close and to win 2 of those games. And they had, that was their best shot to win any games in that series. Then they go cold because they can't hit mid-range jumpers. And here's the thing. When the NBA slows down in the playoffs, it gets more physical, right? The bigger teams tend to gravitate towards the top in the playoffs because they're very physical in how they play. And it affects, over the course of a game, you get tired, you're banging around, and you're just getting beat up over the course of 48 minutes. That's just how it works. And then that affects how you shoot, how you get that lift in your legs, everything. And so I do see the Phoenix Suns struggling once they get to the playoffs. When the game slows down, gets more physical, look for them to have issues against these teams that are bigger and stronger than they are. But can they shoot you out of a building as well? They're very, very good at it when they can hit shots. But we saw Kevin Durant not hit shots when it mattered, when they needed to. We saw Devin Booker outside of those 2 games. I mean, he was kind of he was good, but not, good enough. You can't carry that. So Suns come in here, number 5. Again, I think they have the same exact issues that they had last year. So great regular season team, when they get to the playoffs, I struggle to see how they're going to be able to get through a physical series. Like, they need to learn how to win the games that are like rock fights. And that's where you see the teams that really gravitate towards the top as well, is the teams that can win in multiple ways. You have the teams like, the Lakers or the Nuggets that where it's like, they can win a slow-paced defensive game. They can win an up-tempo game. They can win when it gets sloppy. They can win when it's physical or find ways to win. I don't believe or trust in the Suns to do that. Let's see. Grayson Allen is going to be a bad addition. Yeah, the technicals are going to be in their future for sure. I'm not sure why people think they're going to be good. I'm not a huge Grayson Allen fan, but I mean, he's a role player. That's what I'll say. Heat way too high. They might be a play-in team. Well, and that color blast, that's what I was talking about when I was talking about the Heat. Like, I think the top 6 teams have a legitimate chance to win a championship. Everyone else, I think, it's going to be they're on the outside looking in. But we say this about the Heat every year, don't we? Don't we say this about the Heat? And they somehow find themselves in the Eastern Conference Finals or the Finals every single year, it seems. Like, that's the thing. They're well coached and they have some really good, talented stars on that team between Adebayo and Butler and some role players that fit. But I mean, they just somehow find a way. I mean, do we expect them to beat the Bucks? Nah, not at all. But they found a way. We'll get to that in a little bit. Lakers coming in here at number 4. So Lakers, I think, are going to be one of the most... They're going to be the biggest challenge for the Denver Nuggets in the West. The Denver Nuggets are world champs, as we've talked about, but the Denver Nuggets have really established themselves as a team that is prolific offensively. And so, that being said, the Lakers are very, very good based off of some of the key additions in the offseason. Now, and it pains me to say this, but I like a lot of their moves that they made. So, looking at their depth chart, I mean, you have D'Angelo Russell, who melted away in the playoffs. He's still a good regular season. I think we'll see how he corrects that this season, but Austin Reeves has stepped up. Austin Reeves is a player, and he adds shooting, he adds grit and defense. So I think he's a big, big aspect of their success. LeBron James, Jared Vanderbilt defensively adds a nice layer, and then Anthony Davis. But then you also look at the additions of Gabe Vincent, Taurean Prince. They had Rui Hachimura. They added Christian Wood. They have Jackson Hayes. I mean, they're deep. Cam Reddish is like third level on this team. So they have depth, and they have defense, and they have a lot to work with here. They have probably the highest ceiling of any team in the West besides the Nuggets. The issue I have with them is they need more consistency out of LeBron and AD. I heard AD was trying to play all 82 games, and I'll believe that when I see it. But LeBron's getting older. AD is made of glass and doesn't play a full season ever. But if they can be healthy, which it's a massive, massive if, they could be one of the best teams in the NBA, if not the West, for sure. Best defensive team in the league by far. Probably the best threat with their length, size, physicality. They're probably the one team that scares me about banging around with the Nuggets, getting physical with their size. And offensively, they could pressure the paint. They've improved their spot-up shooting, which I think that was the biggest issue for them last year. So, I mean, they addressed a lot of the deficiencies that they had. And I can't fault them for that. Let's see. I think I'd swap Lakers for Golden State on your list. I don't know. Golden State, again, for those reasons that I said, and for the reasons just now, that the Lakers just top to bottom defensively, and then now offensively adding all of that spot-up shooting, those shot creation style players surrounding AD and LeBron, I think is going to be a big, big boost for them. I think the Lakers are good, but LeBron is too old now. AD will have to carry hard. Yeah, and AD has to have realistically, AD needs to be the best player on this team, with LeBron being kind of like the facilitator and like the, number two, right? Like AD, when he's at his best and he's playing and he's healthy, he's a top 5 player in the NBA, easy. They can't bang around if they're true, Gibby. True. It's true. So either way, we're banking, at least on this one, that the Lakers are going to stay healthy and be able to, make it to the playoffs relatively in a good spot. And I think that they're a bigger threat to the Nuggets more so than the Suns or the Warriors or the Clippers, or any of these other teams. So Lakers come in at number 4. Number 3, Celts. Celtics come in here in this spot. Let's recap some of the things that happened in the offseason here. They lost Brogdon, Smart, Grant Williams, Robert Williams, added Porzingis, Drew Holiday. And Celtics are a team that, man, they went in on the offseason, didn't they? They went in. Now, they're very, very, very good. Like, you look at their starting lineup projected for this season, and it's solid. Now, when you look at Drew Holiday, Derek White, no one talks about Derek White enough. Derek White's a very talented player in this league, and he's almost what kept them in some of those series some of those games and some of those playoff runs that maybe they shouldn't have been in. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Kristaps Porzingis. Kristaps Porzingis obviously coming in, and he has always had kind of an injury history, so we'll have to kind of balance that out. But they were able to keep Al Horford. I struggle to see some of the depth that I would like to see. There's not a lot after that starting lineup. And I think the starting lineup is very good, yes. And I'm still trying to figure out if they're going to make it through the season without injuries being an issue. So you lose one of these guys in the starting lineup to injuries at any point for long periods of time, then I think that they're going to run into some problems. But I will say when they're healthy, probably one of the better starting 5s, if not the best starting 5 in basketball. And you're getting production from all of them. Kristaps Porzingis has become a very good mid-range pick and roll kind of player. So, he's been able to, step up his game. I think the other players around him. One thing that weirds me out about this team too is the fact that Jason Tatum just melts in the playoffs when it really matters. And I just don't know. Like, you look at some of these other superstars out there, and I don't know if I could trust Jason Tatum in a game, because I feel like he struggles to create his own shot when it really matters. And when he had some games in there where he saved them at the end he made a couple runs at the end of a couple games and he did his thing. But there were games where he struggled. And that's what I worry about a little bit. They get some defensive pressure on the outside perimeter with Drew Holiday, so I like that a lot. Drew is very, very good. Going back, healthy Kawhi is no clear top 5. It is also near top 5 Clippers sleeper team as usual. Color Blast, I said that exact thing earlier on, except I maybe I'm not as high in them to make a deep run in the playoffs. I said Kawhi is probably a top 5 to 7 player easily when he's healthy. But Clippers do what the Cowboys and the Chargers do every single year. They look great on paper. Everyone buys into them. Everyone predicts them to win everything. And then they end up not just when it matters, they just disappear. So Celtics, I worry about their depth and staying healthy, but I do think that they're a top 3 team in the NBA. They can stretch you out. They can really, move the ball around and create open shots. Whether or not they can be consistent over the course of an NBA season and keep everybody healthy in the lineup, that's another thing. Bucks are at the number 2 spot. I think the Bucks made probably the best the best move in the offseason of any team to just be fully complementary, and I think they edged out the Boston Celtics when it comes to the offseason moves and changes to this roster. The biggest change, obviously, we all know Damian Lillard coming in, lost Drew Holiday, but the Milwaukee Bucks also, are looking at a lineup with Lillard, Malik Beasley, Chris Middleton, Antetokounmpo, and Brook Lopez coming in here. So still kept some of their veteran pieces. They still have young Marjon Beauchamp on the bench, who they just drafted, Bobby Portis, Jay Crowder, Cam Payne, Pat Connaughton. So they have, I like their bench better than Boston's bench for sure. I like what they bring to the table there. But the fact that they were able to fix a big issue from their playoff run this offseason is why I think that they're the number 2 team on my list. They struggled in half-court offense. It was the biggest issue that they had, that they just couldn't create shots in the half-court. You can't rely on Giannis to consistently be a shot creator or a spot-up jump shooter or a mid-range jump shooter or hitting free throws or do a lot of the things when it comes down into a playoff series to those games. You have to rely on your superstar, and when he can't do those things, you have an issue. Dame and Giannis make up for each other's weaknesses in a very, very unique way, right? What's Giannis's weakness? What I just said, the shot creation, half-court offense, mid-range game, free throws, everything. Well, Dame fixes that. On the other side, Dame, when he was in Portland, what were some of the biggest deficiencies there? Dame shoots over the top, great pick and roll creator, dominant half-court offensive player, mid-range, long-range, but defensively, not very proficient. He's small, and he has nobody behind him to cover up for, all of his defensive deficiencies. Well, he solved that problem with Giannis. So Giannis can be that safety net for anything that happens when Dame is, doing his thing as well. This pick and roll is going to be very, very solid here. So, this is going to be probably my second. I think they're going to be in my prediction to be the representative for the East as of right now, as of this preseason. One thing I will say, I think there's one weakness here, and maybe it's not a weakness. I want to see how this plays out this season, but I think this team could struggle with defense around the perimeter against teams that are just loaded with shot creation. Like, Giannis obviously out at the perimeter defending players like Jokic or AD or some of those kind of players. I think Golden State, Denver, Phoenix, even Philadelphia, if you have Maxey and Harden that are shooting around the perimeter, I think there could be some defensive struggles when it comes to that. They lost that in Drew Holiday, who is a very good perimeter defender, and I just think that this is going to be an issue for them potentially to keep an eye on. Do I think it's going to just destroy their chances by any means? No. But I do think that it limits them potentially if I'm curious to see how they play against those types of teams. But they've solved their half-court offense issue in the playoffs, I think. So, you can rely on Dame to hit shots. You can, let Giannis be more comfortable getting in the paint, banging around a little bit, doing some new things. I think Giannis needs to improve his spot up shooting a little bit more, but that's just me. If Giannis was proficient in his mid range and could hit free throws, as much as I love Jokic, I don't think Jokic would be the best player in the world right now. All right, number 1. It's no big surprise here. We have the defending champions and my team, the Denver Nuggets here. Number 1. Let's just put it like it is. They are the team to beat. The crazy thing about the Denver Nuggets is they didn't make any offseason moves, really. They didn't do anything. They just stayed pat. They actually lost players, which is crazy. Yeah, Riley, how did you know? How did you know this would be? And again, guys, I'm not being biased. I'm proud to put them up here because even if I wasn't a Nuggets fan, it's hard to not put a team that is the most prolific offense that we've seen in recent memory, probably since Showtime Lakers. Like just the way they move the ball, the way they shoot, the way they like move without the ball, everything, top to bottom. I mean, especially in the playoffs, I should say. Showtime Lakers in the playoffs, I should say. But they are a very, very, very good team, and for good reason. They're returning all of their starting lineup. Every single one of their starting lineup is coming back, and they were very good. On the back line, Christian Brown's going to step into that sixth man role. Justin Holiday was an addition. Peyton Watson's a young kid, very athletic, very good defensively, but can he hit shots? I mean, that's the biggest question there. Reggie Jackson will be another player we'll be keeping an eye on, but they added Julian Strawther, who's in the playoffs, in the preseason, absolutely just shooting lights out. Like, if Julian Strawther can come in and hit shots and be a day one contributor on the second line of this team, whoo, man, I'm telling you, they're going to be very, very good. But Denver Nuggets, for a lot of reasons, are going to be the best team in my power rankings because, one, you have the best player in the NBA. Two, and you could argue this with Giannis and Dame. I think still efficiently and effectively, Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic are the best duo in the NBA, just on how they play off each other, how they understand each other, how their visions on the court. They've been playing with each other since 2016, 2017 season. They just know how each other, I mean, there's something to that. So excellent spot up shooting team, excellent transition offense, 97th percentile last season, excellent off ball movement, dominant on handoffs. I mean, there's so much to like about this. Joker, Nikola Jokic is coming off one of the most historic individual, maybe a top 10 historic individual run of all time. 30, 13 and a half, 9.5 on 63% true shooting. Like, that's crazy in itself. But that was a title run, facing some of the best defensive bigs in basketball, destroying them, all with playmaking and scoring. Like, I think there's so much to like about this team. A couple questions I have about this team, though. And actually, Medic brings it up a little bit. Depth is the big issue. And I'm kind of weird on this one. So depth was an issue last year, and the Nuggets found a way to win. So I do think that, Christian Brown needs to step up. Can he step up into that six-man role? I think losing Bruce Brown is going. I mean, we're taking a step back. Christian Brown's not going to be efficient when it comes to the playmaking and rebounding that Bruce Brown provided. So the grittiness, the spatial awareness, all of those things, maybe he can. I just don't know if he's going to take that step up to Bruce Brown level, but Christian Brown can be one of those players who can do some of those things. Can Strawther be an immediate impact plug and play, like I said here just a couple seconds ago? Can Watson improve his shot with his athleticism and his defense? He would be an incredible player. But we're relying a lot on young talent to take the step up. And that's the thing that I'm trusting that these coaches can get the best out of these players. But I've also seen a history of drafting good players and being able to develop them as well. So that's why I'm not as worried. And given that depth was an issue last year, it's an issue this year as well. I still think that they could get past that and still be a viable team, good enough, and probably my favorite to win the NBA title. It's really the only thing that's like really stopping me from picking them to win the NBA title is that history is not on their side in back-to-back championships. I don't think that's happened since Golden State, if I'm not mistaken. So that's probably not something that, I feel great about, but I do really, really like this team. I think it's closer to Giannis and Jokic than you were saying personally. Giannis' top end is crazy good, even with run and dunk. So Giannis is very, very good. Don't get me wrong. He's him and Jokic, 1 and 2. If you want to put Giannis ahead of Jokic, sure, I can see that argument. I just think that there's some deficiencies there. Jokic gets a lot bad rap for being a terrible defensive player, but yet he's very good at defensive rebounding, defensive spatial awareness, anything that there's a reason why he doesn't get a lot of fouls and he stays in games. A lot of people are like, oh, he gives up layups all the time. Well, it's a better alternative to keep the most proficient and most efficient player in the NBA and on the planet in the game, as opposed to out of the game with fouls, if he's challenging some of those defensive, layups, all those takes to the hoop in the paint. I'll take that trade-off given how efficient offensively Joker makes this entire team. So that's why it was so crazy to be that the typically you don't see teams that are in double-digit defensive efficiencies have a decent run and make a title run in the playoffs, because defense you need once it gets to that time. But the Nuggets offense was so freaking efficient and good that it made up for all the deficiencies. And even still, Joker's still a decent defensive player. He's not just a road cone out there. So I also trust Jokic's shooting. His mid-range and his floaters and his hook shots, all within the paint, all like 60%. He's hitting 2 out of 3 of those each and every single game. That's ridiculous. He's the best post-up player in the NBA statistically on efficiency. Top to bottom, he's just so good. You trust him at the free throw line. He can hit threes. So when it comes to that aspect, I guess, I look at it from a different lens, Color Blast, where I just feel like Joker adding into that crazy title run, going through the defensive players he went through, I just think that it's hard for me to say that Joker's, behind Giannis in that. But I'm not taking anything away from Giannis. Giannis is still, like, insane. Had 35, 13, and 5 against the Suns. I get it, but Joker was doing that throughout the course of the entire playoffs, like in the finals and on the playoff run against the best bigs and best defensive players in basketball, and 63% true shooting and all that. So, you take, a snapshot of the entire, it's a top 10 individual playoff run of all time. It's insane how good it was. Anyways, so that being said, hey, they're both solid, and I can't wait to watch both of them play. They're going to be both incredible players. Thunder, Clippers, Sixers, Heat, Warriors, top 6, or the bottom half of this list, and then the Suns, Lakers, Celtics, Bucks, and Nuggets round out the top 5. So we're going to be diving in again all season long, more and more on not only these power rankings. Maybe we do these bi-weekly and we talk about these as the season goes on. And number 2, I want to do a lot of player rankings. I want to do a lot of there's news, there's all these different things happening over the course of a season, trades, drama, the storylines, all of it, some of the top matchups. We're going to be doing some playback.tv watch-alongs. We're going to be doing all sorts of cool things. I know that our Wednesday and Sunday shows are typically dedicated to the NFL, which, it's hard to take away from that because the NFL is king. But NBA is right there too, and we want to make sure you guys are getting all your NBA content. NBA is one of my favorite things to talk about, so I want to make sure you guys, if you want to talk hoops, this is the spot. What's up, Medic? Welcome back. You're back just in time. We're going to be wrapping things up here in a sec. But, guys, if you guys have anybody else that you know that loves talking hoops, make sure you share this over to anybody that likes anything basketball related. I'm going to be posting this entire power rankings to YouTube. So, Medic, if you missed those those top 2 or 3, make sure you go in. I'm going to upload this. I'm going to try to upload it tonight to YouTube. So make sure you go check that out, and you can catch everything I said at the end. But it's all good, Medic. Good to have you in. And Color Blast, thank you. Everybody else, Riley, Hometown, Cuban, everybody. Brandon was in earlier as well. Thank you so much for all the support, all the love, talking some hoops with me, keeping me company here tonight. I will be back. Devil Doc as well. Thank you so much. And I will be back here Sunday. Sunday is our fan face-off for Sunday Night Football. Big one in Miami with Miami and the Philadelphia Eagles. That's going to be a hell of a game, by the way. I'll be back for sure. Love NBA. Love that, Color Blast. Well, you're in the right spot. My Nuggets taking on the 36-32 over. Man, preseason basketball. It's so good. Like the only sport, I think. I mean, hockey is decent preseason, but basketball preseason is so good. Like Adam Silver did something right when you get superstars playing in preseason for the NBA. It's crazy.